Q&A time again, and we are having lots of great questions come in this month. So we'll get pretty much straight to it. General update, life is good. I'm very nervous. I have a half marathon coming up in less than 48 hours, and I'm super nervous.
Yeah, and we have a new microphone, which is nice.
Let's get to it.
First question is from, and by the way, I had a cold, which is why my voice is a little bit first one, Jenny F. Hi, welcome back from our trip. Opinion on having pets from a vegan perspective. Yeah, we're actually a little bit different than most vegans. Most vegans are very... most vegans love animals, and we love animals as well. But most vegans also tend to like having pets. We have kind of over the years started to not liking the idea of actually having pets. You can explain why.
Yeah, well, the reason is generally the ethical dilemma that anyone should face when it comes to having pets, and that is the fact that you are indeed sort of owning another animal or another being and restricting its freedom, so to speak. I mean, it depends, right? Because typical pet would be like a dog.
Yeah.
And if you have a huge farm with like lots of acreage and the dog is just running freely and doing its own thing, it's debatable whether or not that dog is feeling any sort of limitations in his life.
Yeah, so I guess like an animal friend is kind of different than having a pet.
Yeah.
But
and then,
that's almost impossible.
But then when it comes to cats, for example, they tend to come and go.
Yeah.
So their freedom is pretty unlimited. And so the question, yeah, as you said, is it really a pet or is it a friend? But then again, you did maybe buy it, and if you bought it, then that's sort of like, how can you buy someone? That's kind of weird. That's like slavery essentially, right? Like you're buying your own little petting slave.
And you're also, this also brings up the point that when you're buying a pet from someone, it means that they have actively bred this, most likely bred these pets for selling. And you know, that's kind of weird and unnatural.
Some people have pets, of course, that come to them actually. Like in Costa Rica and stuff, I know of certain dogs that are just appeared and then they've just become friends, which is a different kind of thing. And you could also argue again that if the conditions are really good outside, etc., then, you know, it's probably okay. I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
But meeting the needs of the pet is very important, of course. And as we know, cats and dogs are carnivores for the most part, or cats almost exclusively, and dogs are, I guess, omnivores somewhat. But they like meat. They need meat. And so then you have to start buying meat to the dog. A lot of people give it vegan food, but I don't know if that's ideal. And if it's not getting the ideal diet, then is that ethical?
Yeah.
So raw meat, you have to buy that, and how would you source that, etc.
Not to mention the fact that having a leash on a dog, for example, I really
that's
hate
like
that
despicable. Like seeing people walking their dogs, it makes me so angry because it's just horrible. Pulling the leash, and even if you don't pull the leash, it's just
it's impossible to have a pet and not be controlling it and like telling it what to do.
And if you're teaching it how to behave, then essentially that's like that's slavery. It's slavery, really. But this is a fine nuance, and I mean, I think if you already have a pet, it's not like you should get rid of it now because you're vegan. And we need to also keep in mind that, you know, we do love animals, and I mean, if you have a pet already, taking good care of it, and they can be a great friend, of course. So I mean, it's really, there's a lot of gray zones here.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I don't wanna acquire a pet. The alpacas out here are in captivity, and I don't like that. But but they are there, and I tend to go out and mingle with them almost every day because I love having that contact with animals. So I do understand the, you know, motivation behind it. And quickly at the end, there's also a health element, right? Like cats and dogs, they tend to harbor some parasites sometimes, and being around them can be problematic from a health perspective in that sense. further away from me.
Yeah, you're shouting and my voice is always low.
Yeah.
So.
So a great question. Everyone who's watching, let us know, and you, Jenny, as well, let us know your thoughts on it, because maybe we definitely haven't considered the whole picture. Maybe you have something else to contribute to the discussion. Please do let us know. Let's move on. Next up, Ray asks 4 questions today, and that's okay, but then we'll have to answer very quickly, of course, because we want sort of equal amount of time on each person. We don't want to spend too much time.
Yeah,
So
and, you know, we do prefer one.
One question is ideal, but 4 questions for today, that's okay. We'll do it rapid fire style, almost. Yeah. First question from Ray: how do you keep the fruit flies off and out of the ripening bananas on the shelf? This one's easy.
Yeah. Answer is, it is impossible. If they're open, if there's
if the banana is open,
yeah,
like if there's a little split,
yeah, or something like that, damaged fruit, or where it can get to the edible part. If it has any parts like that, put it in the fridge. That's what we do. Or make a box that's totally sealed from with a tiny mesh or something.
Yeah. The point is, you want to keep your kitchen clean. You don't want any food lying around for the fruit flies, and you want the bananas to be sealed in their peel. And if there's any holes or open, then you need to deal with that. Next question from Ray: how do you know when a red banana is ripe? Does the color change much? I ate my first one yesterday. I picked the softest one, not very sweet. Way too banana-y for my tastes. Maybe it was not ripe enough. That's good point. It is very banana-y.
Yeah.
We only had a few red bananas we had a few, but we're not like that experienced when it comes to red bananas. But
I'm pretty certain. I mean, there's different types, obviously, but I think the ones we had didn't get spotty, but they did turn more, a little bit more dark in color. Yeah. I mean, they do go from being green to becoming red, I think.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe.
I think they're more like, I don't know, but one thing is for sure, and this goes for all bananas almost: soft and easy to peel.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the banana is soft to the touch, it's probably ripe. And if you peel it and it starts like, it's hard to peel it and it's like make a sound as you pull off the peel, it's definitely unripe. It should be like completely silent as you peel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to experiment with it. I've had a few red bananas that I liked, but they're definitely not my favorite.
No.
I prefer the yellow ones.
Third one. Have you been to Iceland? I was there a while ago and it was amazing. If you have been, how similar is it to Norway? Okay, that should be my limit for today. Thanks, guys. No, we haven't been to Iceland. It looks like an interesting place. I'm pretty sure it's fairly different from Norway.
Yeah, probably, though it is pretty similar to northern Norway, maybe.
Yes, I was coming to it. Recently we were on this trip and we went to the absolute north of Norway, and it was pretty barren in terms of nature. I mean, it was kind of flat.
Flat?
Yeah, the total north of Norway.
It was like insane, like there was just crazy peaks everywhere.
No.
But what you mean, I guess, is that there was a lot of wind that smoothed out a lot of the mountains, and there was no trees, etc. But the one thing that I have to say about the northern part of Norway is that the topography was really extreme.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like no.
What? That's
absurd. Maybe the northwest, maybe like 80% up the coast. Yes, but total like Kirkenes, where we were.
The absolute north,
yeah.
The far north.
Yeah. I don't remember being large peaks.
Way more up and down here anyway. Certainly not flat. And I remember peaks.
Well, in any case,
Matt is not very. He doesn't look too much at nature.
Iceland is a volcano, and kind of crazy, but it's also very barren. So it's similar in that way, I guess. But in terms of the culture, I mean, Iceland, the people.
On. We need to move on. We haven't been to Iceland. Sorry, we don't know much about it. But it's quickly said in one sentence what you want to say.
They came from Norway like 1,000 years ago or something. Yeah. They speak Viking language.
Probably similarish. Last question from Ray. What do you think about treadmills? Not as good as outdoor running, but how does it compare in your opinion? What are the major disadvantages? Hard on the knees. Okay, I'm done for now. Treadmills are a good option for running when the weather is bad or when you really want to control the pace or something like that. But I mean, there's no wind resistance, so it's a little bit easier. So typically people advise to put the treadmill on like 1% grade just to get a little resistance to match the air resistance. And so the advantages are that it's better in, as I just said, in the weather, etc. But the disadvantage is that you're not moving forward. Something weird happens in your brain. Like I do feel a little bit dizzy almost after like an hour on the treadmill, and it's just super boring. That's
I can only do like 5 minutes, and I'm like, God no.
Yeah.
Then I have to go.
But I'm glad they exist. I am glad they exist. Corge Musquet. Hey, so I have a somewhat typically socially embarrassing question. That in fact isn't and shouldn't be. That concerns men. What do you think of male ejaculation regarding health? I've heard many people saying it wouldn't be healthy on a regular basis. It would provoke the loss of nutrients and energy. Have you done some research on the subject? What do you think about it? Thanks for the answer. Sorry if it puts you uncomfortable. No, that's okay. Maybe 10% uncomfortable, but not really.
That's an interesting question. I think it's like a movement called NoFap.
Yeah.
I think, and I think it's just utter absurdity.
Total absurdity. It's kind of like similar to, in my opinion, fasting on a regular basis, intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day. I mean, people can do things because they think it's fun. They can sort of get hung up on like specific benefits. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like eating and sleeping and having sex and moving and all these things are natural things to humans. You had something more?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the intermittent fasting thing. I mean, that there's somewhat logical reasons behind it. You can make it logical, but this.
Well, not exactly 1 meal a day. I don't think so.
No.
But 2 meals a day, sure.
But this is something. I don't see any logical reasoning behind it. There's. I'm sure you can find evidence for it, scientific evidence, like studies.
I looked for it a little bit. I haven't found much hardcore evidence, to be honest. Like, the whole idea of losing energy is like it's linked with like Chinese medicine and stuff like that. You know, like losing qi, losing your life force or whatever, and it just doesn't seem to be much logic behind that or any studies to substantiate it. Maybe if you've seen any, you could share it with us. And when it comes to having sex or masturbating or just ejaculating, I think, as any function in the body, any natural function is more or less on a use it or lose it basis. And if it's meant to happen, if you have a drive, then that drive is there for a reason. So, I don't think it's not something that I sort of put any focus on, and it's certainly not something I think people should focus on. But it is interesting, like all things.
I guess when we were talking about the chi thing, I think that's the only interesting part, where perhaps there are some interesting I'm searching for a better word, but meditational aspects, creative energy, focusing energy, blah blah, which you might play with.
But for example, athletic performance, I've read people talk about having sex the day before a race and certain things, and it seems to be a general agreement that maybe the day before you abstain, but I haven't seen any hardcore evidence for it. And to be honest, anything you do can be done in excess as well, so that's something to keep in mind. So someone who's masturbating 10 times a day or something crazy like that, that's definitely not healthy. I mean, I can't see any way that could be healthy. But I mean, everything in moderation. So everything healthy moderates itself typically by the natural drives that we have to eat and sleep and move our bodies and have sex, etc. So I think as long as we're just following our bodies and listening to our bodies and doing what feels natural when it feels natural, it doesn't. I don't see why it should be a problem.
Basically, 6 or 7 times a day that's okay.
That's okay. That's fine. Next question.
Jenny Marie. Hi guys, I have a gym specific question. I'll try to be concise as possible. When I go through my weightlifting exercises at the gym, I stay on one piece of equipment at a time until I've completed my sets for that particular exercise. However, there are many people at the gym, so far always men, who commandeer the multiple pieces of equipment at one time.
Oh, I hate those people.
Yeah.
Old women, old, yeah.
They leave
They leave the towel or
specific
something.
plates racked and walked away to do something else and expect the equipment to be left alone for them when they wander back 20 minutes later. As you might guess, I find this quite rude since they're pretty much hogging lots of equipment and preventing others from using it. By putting my frustration aside, are there any real physical benefits to doing weights in a circuit like they have created for themselves? Is there a good reason to rotate through equipment repeatedly, or do you think they're just trying to be bullies at the gym? I'm getting better at asserting myself in the free weights area, but would still be nice to feel a little bit more respected as a girl doing weight training. Yeah, I have many thoughts on it. First off, I guess I don't think they necessarily try to be bullies, although some might want to be that, kind of like
territorial bullshit.
Yeah, but most of the time people are just idiots. People are just strange and not thinking. They're either sitting on their smartphone or they're doing on the equipment, or they're doing a circuit where they're for some reason they want to have all of them but don't consider anyone else.
I have a few thoughts.
Yeah.
First thought is that there was a time, I think it was on La Palma, there was this guy, he went to the squatting rack and then he went between the squatting rack and the leg extension machine for the quads.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had his towel over the leg extension machine, like his towel was there. And then he would go over to the squat machine and be there for like 5 minutes and come back. And he would go back and forth like this for like an hour. Like it was pretty strange. And is it okay?
It's okay, I'm just checking.
And I was, what I did was, in that situation, I was like, this is unacceptable. It's just not okay. So I was just, every time I wanted to go to the leg extension machine, I just took his towel off, sat down and did my thing and then put it back. He never saw it, I think, but if he did see it, I would just say, not angry or anything, I would just say like, hey, but I need to use it. And if he has anything against that, then I guess we would talk about it, but I don't think he would have. And the thing is also that if someone is doing this, the better way to do it, I mean, he didn't speak well English, that was the problem, but if he was speaking English, it was in Norway or something, I would just go up to the person and say, hey, can I use that in between your sets? Like we go...
Or
like
how many sets do you have left?
Yeah. So communication basically is probably the best idea.
Yeah.
And of course, in these people who do these things, they are annoying, they are stupid, but yeah, communication.
In terms of the exercise the point of doing it, the good thing about doing different exercises, like you can either do, let's say you're doing squats, bench press and pull-ups. If you circuit them, you get proper rest between each of the exercises, like you're doing squats and then when you do squats the next time around the circuit, you're ready for squats again, so they get enough rest. However, you also might miss out on certain metabolic build-ups in your muscles, which might be beneficial. Like it might be better for you to just do squats, wait a little bit, and then squats again. That might trigger a better response in the muscle, but this is just my thoughts and maybe good or bad.
Could you say almost that going to the gym or lifting weights or anything, any exercise for that matter, any fitness regime, any sport, but especially weight training, It's all about changing your regime over time and hitting the muscle in different ways and in different combinations and in different lengths of sets and different ranges, etc. And doing something like this would stimulate the muscle in a way that's different from something else maybe. And that's why almost any kind of regime has its place. And someone doing this might just be after that, like something like a blah. I don't know how I was going to conclude that. So
I think in almost there's no real reason to do a circuit, in my opinion. Specifically.
Well, let's give him some practical advice. Should people do the circuits or not?
Hold on. The reason people do circuits primarily is because they want to save time. They do one set, go to the next, immediately do another set.
Like a superset.
Yeah, that's the only real reason.
And that's okay if you're short on time, but if you're better off, you're getting a better training without doing that probably.
I hate supersets. It just leaves me destroyed, and then you're not able to train properly.
Next question, Sean. To Mikkel first. How do you divide your time between running and strength training? More specifically, between running outside versus allocating time in the gym to training parts of your body non-specific to running. Are you ever concerned that you're sacrificing muscular strength for the sake of endurance? You are obviously quite fit, but I just want to know how you feel about the importance of one versus the other. I could pose the opposite version of this question to Mads, who seems to focus himself more on weightlifting versus running. So are you sacrificing endurance or cardiovascular health maybe? What has inspired each of you to focus on your chosen area of physical discipline? I love that question. That's a nice one. They're all nice, but we're totally obsessed about fitness these days, as most of you probably notice. Well, I would say, first of all, yes, I know that I'm sacrificing overall fitness for the sake of running. Like I would probably, if I wasn't so focused on running, I would be lifting a little bit more weights. I'll put on a little bit more muscle on my upper body, I would just spend a little bit more time doing that, and a little bit less time for running. But I do love running, and I need to stay light. So really, the skinnier the better, almost, except for the legs, though. To a certain point. But I do a little bit of upper body lifting because I think it's just good for bone density in the arms and upper body. It's good for posture. It's good for running even, because you need to maintain your posture when you're running. It's good for injury resistance. If I'm falling, that I'm not like super fragile. Mm-hmm. So I do once a week lift weights for my upper body. So bench press, pull-ups, mostly those two, but sometimes other things as well. And then twice a week I lift weights for my lower legs, basically squats and deadlifts, etc., just to get that strength component in. And I focus on
the volume is very low though.
The volume is low. I'm doing few sets per week, and I'm doing very high weight. So I'm lifting 3 to 5 reps. So it's heavy weights because I'm working on that strength rather than building the mass. And the endurance is trained when I'm running. In terms of how I'm programming it and how I'm doing it, there's just a lot of things to consider. But generally speaking, I want to make the hard days harder and the easy days easier. Rather than spreading it out so that the whole week, every day has a hard component to it in terms of training, I want, for example, my Tuesday and Fridays to be hard days, and then I want Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday to be easy days. And easy means really easy. So I don't want to do my strength training on an easy day. So what I typically do is that I do my hard workout at the track, for example, on a Tuesday, and then I sit and rest at the library a little bit, working at the library, and then I go to the gym afterwards and do my heavy lifting on the same day as I did the hard workout running wise. And I'll do the same on Friday, another hard workout for running, and then a few hours later I go to the gym and lift weights. That's twice a week, and that's it. And then over the other, just on the other days, I typically go to the gym for a couple of other days a week where I just work on stuff that's not taxing. Things like just stretches, mobility, little details of like foot strength and that sort of thing. So we can talk more about it. I mean, if you want, we could. You can send me a message or whatever.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm not going to say all of them. I'm just going to say yes. I am somewhat concerned about doing too much cardio. specificity is number one key if you want to optimize your result in one specific area.
Yeah.
So I'm doing very little cardio other than walking. I always walk fairly fast and like 4 minutes of warming up before my strength sessions.
And you do a lot of walking.
Yeah, I said.
Oh, you said it.
That is pretty much it. It's not optimal for health.
But it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think you're not far off.
No, and you know the weightlifting, I'm pushing it really hard. So a set of really heavy squats, like 12 repetitions, it's almost like a sprint.
Mhm.
So
Certainly.
who knows?
Physiologically, it is very similar.
Yeah.
So you should have a little bit more cardio, probably a couple of easy runs per week, plus 10 minutes of hard running, something like that,
For
optimal health and fitness. You
Yeah.
could say overall fitness. And I should probably, the opposite is true for me. I should probably, have. Well, I'm closer to optimal probably than you are, but I would probably work a little bit more on general strength. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
2 more questions.
Elizabeth, or
Elizabeth, yeah.
yeah. So Elizabeth asks, have you guys ever gotten involved in a vegan activist group? No, we haven't.
No,
We have some friends who are vegan activists. I'm kind of on the fence on whether I like activism or not.
Depends on what kind.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, we are activists. In a sense,
In a sense.
we are mostly from a health perspective, of course. But you're probably referring to like for the animals, and we are somewhat like. You could say we are activists to a certain degree, just because we have a YouTube channel and we are promoting a message.
But not really. Like when I'm thinking activists, I'm thinking on the streets with big signs.
And flyers and making demonstrations.
And it's possible that it helps. It's also possible that it just paints vegan as kind of crazy people who will shout at you at McDonald's.
Yeah. Let's face it. I mean, I think
Maybe it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, I think generally speaking that if it's done in the right way, like for example that guy, is it Dave Aspey? At least his last name is Aspey, Aspey, the guy who was silent for a whole year
Oh, okay.
to raise awareness for animals. I like him. Like he's calm, he is in the streets, but he's not violent and he communicates.
Yeah.
And then there's that guy, Joey, is it Earthling Ed or something like that? There's this guy who's always talking to people in a very sensible manner, like discussing with them on the street. And he gets into some heated arguments, but he's always staying calm. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The problem is that probably most of the vegan activists that are out there are violent and screaming and kind of crazy. And I mean, you can ask almost anyone out there. You just say the word vegan and people think, oh, those are the crazy guys. Those are the crazies. And that's because what they see is these very people, and even in a family setting, people that are sort of trying to put their opinion, shove it down their people's throat,
Yeah.
and that's not good. So I guess we haven't been involved in the vegan activist group. I'm not drawn to that kind of activity. It's not my thing to do that. But as I said, I think there's certainly a place for it, as long as it's respectful, calm, non-violent, and sort of just all about sharing information and allowing people to come to them rather than chasing people. So if you're in the street as an activist, I don't think you should like chase down people and like ask them questions like, have you heard about this? But you should be more like, hey, here's something going on, you want to know about it, and let people approach.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts anyway. But maybe you're an activist, maybe you know more about it than us, how it's done, what you think is good. So maybe share a comment, Elizabeth, or anyone else, about what you think is good vegan activism. And if you are an activist, Elizabeth, or if anyone else is, remember that there is a community tab on our Patreon page where you guys can post stuff for everyone to read, including us. So if you are an activist and you're out doing cool stuff and you want to share it, don't just share it on Instagram and Facebook, share it on Patreon as well, so we get to see it and we can build this community together.
Oh, yeah.
Last question is from Matt Willis. What do you think about Vegetable Police and his switch to a carnivore diet? That's a great way to finish off today's Q&A.
Yeah.
because that's a very cool
hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
Yeah, I have not watched much of Vegetable Police at all. You started really early in his YouTube career
Yeah.
and watching it and really liked him.
I watched him from the beginning. He's one of the guys that I watch. I watch him a lot. Like
He
I love
seems
his videos.
He seems really cool.
he's so cool and so funny.
Yeah.
Like he's extremely funny. Mostly that's I feel like he's funny, and he's quite intelligent, and he's entertaining, and most of all pretty non-judgmental, pretty open-minded, and I guess that's part of why this carnivore thing is going on now. He's not really that dogmatic. He's willing to try things.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, as a person or on his channel, I think it's great. It's great that he's open to trying something as shocking as a carnivore diet. Like the fact, well, I wouldn't recommend doing that, obviously. I think that's bad for a variety of reasons, ethical and health-wise. We'll get into that, but definitely I like the fact that he's open-minded enough to do it and honest enough to share about it. One of the baby alpacas is running around down there. And the 2 new baby alpacas, they're like 2 weeks old. Anyway, and of course it is entertaining, this dietary change, because I like watching anything that's shocking. Is quite fun to watch, and frankly, after he did his change, I've watched more of his videos. I'm sure many have, because it's just like, what? He's eating beef? Just beef? Like, what the hell?
Thankfully, both of us are like extremely non-judgmental people for some reason, and people can do whatever they want, and I'm not gonna really get angry as long as they do their choices. They choose whatever, and I think I support him in his quest.
The microphone is not connected.
Oh, are you kidding?
We thought we were using the microphone, but it's not connected.
Well,
anyway,
it was the first
still
part.
working.
I support him in his quest for
Health.
trying different things.
Health.
And,
He's trying to find health.
Yeah, even though I don't support it necessarily.
Well, you support his intentions of trying to find health, right? And I do too. In terms of the carnivore diet, though, I don't think that's a healthy diet at all. I don't see any logic behind it. And whenever I see people promoting it, I feel like they have weak arguments. And I feel like there's a very simple answer to all of their arguments that are just like, no, that's like, I don't know, Sverige, you know that guy? The meat. Yeah, but he's called Sverige on the internet. He's not even Swedish. I think he's from...
Yeah, he must be.
No, I think he might be from the Netherlands or something. I don't know, but Sverige, the meat-eating hater, basically, that's what he is. He spends his whole day making videos about vegans and how terrible they are.
Yeah.
He featured us in the video too. So like, it's funny. But like he will say things like, "Well, there's no retinol in fruit, right? Or in the vegan diet. Retinol is vitamin A." But the answer to that is just like, well, no. But there's tons of carotenoids like beta carotene, and we convert that to retinol. We don't need retinol. And it's just a endless array of arguments like that, which I feel like have simple answers to them, scientific answers, and I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. But I'm always open to the idea that there are things that I don't understand, and maybe, I don't think so, but maybe there's always a little bit of truth probably to what everyone has to say. Like everyone discovers a little bit of the truth maybe, and so I'm not gonna write it off completely as completely without benefits. Probably are some benefits to it, but so many downsides, and certainly not optimal from a health perspective, and not ethical either, obviously. But what do you think about his switch? I think he's gonna come back to veganism, I'm pretty sure, at one point. But he's trying this now. It's entertaining, it's interesting, it's strange, and it's disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But we love him nevertheless. That's all the questions for today. Great questions.
Yeah.
Great questions. And yeah, that's it.
You have a coaching client?
I do have a certain Jenny coming up.
Yeah.
Jenny Marie, she is on the Golden Durian level of support here on Patreon, and that means that every month she has a monthly Skype call with me as part of her Patreon thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of you other guys are interested in that as well, there's a 20-minute call every once a month, like Jenny is, then you can just upgrade your patronage.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. You can upgrade your pledge to up to $25 a month, which includes a monthly Skype call. So I'm going to talk with her in about 15 minutes, and yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Yep.
Hope you enjoyed, and yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.